The world of vampiric politics can be a very dangerous place. All these vampires have literally nothing else to do with their time but backstab, do some tricky politicking, and just scheme. They're little schemers, that's all they do. But in this world, there's a job that needs to be done, that of the information broker, because all these vampires are up to some really wild, dirty shit. So who's the one that digs through it and sells it? Well, that's the Nosferatu, and they fit that role to a T. They're the ones you go to when you want to find that hot gossip on this rival vampire you're trying to fight against. The problem is, they've probably already dug through your own dirty laundry, so crossing them isn't the greatest thing. But for the Nosferatu, the most obvious thing about them, the big characteristic, is that they're ugly. They're all just monstrously ugly. Now, the method this actually hits in mechanical terms for the games does depend on editions, and I will often say I have issues with 5th edition Vampire. The one thing I think they do consistently well with, though, are like some of the core rules and vampiric banes. When they've altered a bane, I think they do it for the better. But where did the Nosferatu get their start? And why do they look like that? Well, we have to go back all the way to the beginning, in the first city, with their antediluvian, Absimiliad, who is a guy. He sucks. I can't put it any other way. He is probably one of the most evil of the antediluvians. I have a very tough time trying to power scale evil between him and the antediluvian for the Zamiski. Both of them are pretty rough. I also think it goes without saying, if I have to specially note that an antediluvian, that an ancient vampire is evil, I think that says something. But a long time ago, Absimiliad, as the story goes, is one of King David's sons, like King David from the Bible. However, he was a wicked son. And this is an interesting tidbit. Absimiliad is not in the Bible. Like, that's not one of his kids. If anything, I kind of think they yoinked part of the name of Absalom, who is one of the sons and shares at least one trait with Absimiliad, in that they're apparently were both super hot. The difference is that Absalom didn't seem to be a scumbag. The only like sin he committed, just 10 Commandments wise, he did murder his brother, but he murdered his brother because he was a rapist. Based, I'll be honest. Absimiliad though was a hunter, and he was really good at it. He was really good at stalking around, hunting things, killing things, a concerning skill set, I'll be honest. But this caught the eye of one of the 2nd generation vampires, one known as Zila, who is apparently also gorgeous, like just beautiful, beautiful vampire. She really liked the traits. Zila liked Absimiliad's vibe and also thought he was a bit hot, so she turned him. However, she made one mistake. She lightly scratched Absimiliad's face. So now he has a light scar. And because now he's a kindred, you can't change your appearance. What you look like at your embrace is what you look like forever. And he was that particular type of hot asshole who is really self-obsessed with how they look. And he would not let this slide, because Absimiliad is, again, this is still kind of apocryphal. Old vampire history is very sketchy and kind of unknown. The point is that it's nebulous, and we don't exactly know how everything happened, like A to B to C. We just have the broad strokes vibes, and a lot of times it's painted by the different parties at play. And a lot of times by the Toreador, because the Toreador did a lot of history work. But Absimiliad definitely was the guy who caused the 2nd generation vampires to all get murdered. He was the one who led that revolt of the antediluvians. And it is incredibly clear the reason he did this was to get revenge for scarring his face. That is the reason he did a generational genocide. Shortly thereafter, in the 2nd city, Cain returned and was really pissed that all of his children were killed. So he cursed all of the clans that took part. He cursed all the antediluvians. That is where like most of the clan banes come from, with like a hefty handful of exceptions. Specifically for Absimiliad's involvement and like leadership of this, he was cursed to look like the monster he is within. So Cain brought it out by horrifically and painfully mutating Absimiliad to look like a mockery of the human form. So now he's a monster. Which, yeah, this is where the Nosferatu Bane comes from. And the Bane is rough to deal with because you are disfigured in some way. It isn't just the case of you are ugly. In older editions, this was hammered in a lot harder, but it is specifically ugly in the way that like that cannot be human. A Nosferatu looks like a vampire. They look like a beast wanting to drink your blood. And for just a touch more insult to injury, it's like painful. It hurts to exist for some of them. However, this was altered from a purely mechanical sense in 5th edition in a way I personally prefer, because in older editions, and the one you can definitely see with Bloodlines, like the video game. Yo, editing Glueboy here. So, I was about to deliver a lot of incorrect information. So, the actual clan bane for Nosferatu hasn't altered like that much. It's really, really tiny. Like, here's the version for 20th edition, which is also the same as in Revised in 2nd. This is essentially all it is. It's a big appearance penalty. However, I do still prefer the 5th edition version. I think mechanically it's a lot more interesting, and a clan bane should be a bane. It should be a real penalty to being a vampire. I like purely mechanically how 5th edition works, and as well, funny enough, the version in Bloodlines where like you're supernaturally horrific in its immediate Masquerade violation isn't a thing in the tabletop game, like at all. Thankfully so. I think that is kind of a dumb bane, because all it's going to do is mean like, oh, you put on a disguise. Congrats, now we don't have to worry about your bane ever again. But back to Maximilian, because he then went out, and due to his work, we now have 2 bloodlines from him. The Nosferatu are just one of them, which they're not his favorite. He doesn't like them. A reason for this is because the Nosferatu clan doesn't actually come from him, despite being, you know, the antediluvian. It comes from one Baba Yaga, as in, yeah, the Baba Yaga. Maximilian went hunting up in like the Russia-Ukraine area, way back in the day, like a long ass time ago. He went up hunting, and it turns out the Baba Yaga was just hanging out there. She was a witch of some form. She had nature magic, like, it is noted she felt magically attuned to the world, to nature. She could control animals. I did a little bit of digging, and it really just seems like, with how she's talking and acting, it seems like she's a thaumaturge, like a hedge mage. She does not seem to have true magic, but Maximilian came into her territory to hunt, to do his evil shit. She didn't like this, so she fought. They fought for a good bit, like a back and forth, like multiple times too. She was striking out with the animals, with the plants. Apparently she wielded like the sun in her hands as she was punching him. But eventually he won out because he is an antediluvian. And he also, his power of animalism is just stronger than hers. Now the Baba Yaga is a vampire, where now she is a Nosferatu. She was not a fan of this. She really didn't like him. And I will not go super deep into the Baba Yaga. I had it in my script originally. I just wrote a bunch of stuff out about her. I'm going to make a video on the Baba Yaga. She is so actually sick. She did some hilariously goofy things. She feels like the BBEG of a werewolf campaign. She beefs with the werewolves hard, and it's really interesting. But from her spawned the Nosferatu. That is her bloodline that she made. And she turned away from Maximilian, because literally from the start, she was like, I hate you, I'm going to kill you. She did a lot of, one spoiler, she made a lot of deals with worm spirits, like higher entities of the worm, specifically summoned them to go kill Maximilian. And it is the price of her betrayal that all the Nosferatu are condemned to death, which is where we get to the Nikutu, which are his actual firstborn clan. This is bloodline that are all bloodbound to him. And they are Nosferatu assassins, and they're very good at it, and they're highly loyal. The Baba Yaga eventually met her end through one of these assassins, which is nuts because she's 4th generation. It is that name that terrifies the Nosferatu. They are scared of these guys. The Nikutu are like specters hunting for them, and the other vampires, all the other clans are like, it sounds like superstition. But it's a big reason why the Nosferatu like live in the sewers or in slums, why they're so secluded. They're terrified. There is also some differing opinion on why he's doing this. There is one I saw that the reason Maximilian is trying to kill the Nosferatu is he's trying to kill them all as some form of apology to Cain when he returns. I personally don't believe that. I don't believe he's doing it for that reason. One, how does killing all of his like bloodline on like one side absolve him of anything. How is that an apology? Why does he think that would work? Maybe that's the point, that is like a dumb idea. But the other reason, I just flat out don't believe Absimiliad has that form of empathy or care. This is a guy who led the revolt against the second generation vampires because one scratched his face. So it's perfectly in character for him to be like, well, one of you did something bad to me, therefore all of you deserve death. That's just one of the handful of reasons why Nosferatu live the way they do. The other main reason, though, is their appearance. They are oftentimes shunned, exiled, a lot of times by the Toreador. The Toreador, when they're in power, they like beautiful things, and then the Nosferatu are over there, so they've been exiled from a lot of Toreador territories, so they have beef. It's this jumble of reasons that they live in the sewers. They've developed slums and just ghettos out by themselves in cities, in like hidden areas. Like, you know the whole vibe of the Thieves Guild in a city all run by the homeless population? That is the Nosferatu. That's their vibe. And through this feeling of paranoia, because they literally feel like there's someone coming for them to kill them, they took advantage of the Cold War and the Cold War ending in the United States, because they also hold up in a lot of bunkers and areas that are safe, quiet, and secure. They are also some of the only vampires who are like extra technically literate, because the Nosferatu actually embraced the internet when it came out. There's a development that Nosferatu made called ShrekNet. Not spelled like Shrek, but it's a little different. All this was like a backdoor network through the internet, like piggybacking off of the early internet. Just, they have their own secret area network that they can all communicate through. It's an information network where now they can all just talk and share information. This was like largely only for Nosferatu, not by like everyone else is banned, but they just didn't send an invite. This changed over the years, because there were times when the Sabbat were coming into a big city with a big Nosferatu population, and begrudgingly they gave the Camarilla access to ShrekNet so they could deal with the Sabbat. And then also, the names of this. Just want to mention, ShrekNet was made by a dude named Uncle Stinky. What a name. But it was hacked eventually by one Bobby Weatherbottom, who is also known as Hurricane. He hacked into ShrekNet and was like, dope, this is cool. He's a kindred, he's a vampire. The Nosferatu noticed this breach and were like, I don't want to kick him out or anything, just let him chill if he's not going to break it. And from him specifically, other kindreds started getting access to ShrekNet, specifically the ones who like knew how to use computers and embrace technology, because many kindred didn't want to learn, didn't want to adapt to the times, or like, I don't know, if you're going to teach a 500-year-old vampire how to use like a Macintosh, I don't think they want to deal with it. But eventually, this all came crashing down. ShrekNet was being developed for a long period of time, but around in like the 2000s, the US government found ShrekNet. They got into it and were like, oh shit, vampires? And really got to work. To where then the Camarilla ordered ShrekNet to be completely destroyed. However, the US government did get a lot of information, and funny enough, you know the Tremere Chantry in Vienna? On ShrekNet, there was a lot of mentions of the Vienna Chantry, I think because there were a lot of Tremere on the network. And the US government believed this chantry was the headquarters of all the vampires. That was their home base. So they destroyed it completely, not knowing that it's literally just the main base of like one clan. Sucks to suck, Tremere, like sorry. But with that theme of information, that's what the Nosferatu are. It actually is built in with their compulsion. Their compulsion being cryptophilia. They are obsessed with secrets and they want to learn it. And because of this, they are information brokers. They sell information and dirty gossip to anyone who wants to come knocking. You need a guy to infiltrate a thing or get you something, they're your dudes. And they do this with like genuinely some interesting ways, like animalism, which they use to control animals, like mainly pests. They use pests to do form of like reconnaissance and defense of their sewers where they mainly live. They have literal vitae breeding pools where the rats are like born in, they drink and are immediately blood bond. And yeah, that's a defense. You get too close to their territory, you're gonna get a horde of rats screaming at you. And also obfuscate, which allows them to be invisible. And a lot of times, Nosferatu are known to be masters of stealth. But if push comes to shove, they also have potence, which allows them to kick ass with vampiric strength. If you just want to see a Nosferatu in action, go watch Hunter the Parenting. Literally, one of the early big scary things in that series is a Nosferatu, like going full hog. It's scary. Picture an invisible, very buff monster coming to punch you in the face. It is through this business that the Nosferatu are also like the chillest sires. I gotta be real. When they embrace a person and make them a Nosferatu, they're actually fully trained on how to do this shit. They're trained in like cryptography, in solving puzzles. They are trained so well to do this job. The Nosferatu are honestly kind of chill, I'm not gonna lie. They really care for the downtrodden, because obviously, given their position, they have empathy, which does play into like 2 of the main pools that they take new kindred from. However, it's not uncommon for things like orphanages or homeless shelters to be funded by anonymous Nosferatu groups. They got empathy. They care. They care about the downtrodden. They'll also protect them if like push comes to shove, because they don't like how a bunch of other vampires are just such assholes to people that no one will notice if they're gone. Speaking of, another group that they pull from for embrace, very hot people, but specifically hot, arrogant people. They have a bit of a complex about that. And they will take people, embrace them, specifically for that dramatic irony of you always lorded over people with your looks. Now look at you. And some of this is aimed at the Toreador, because the Toreador also recruit from hot people, and the Toreador are also assholes to them. And funnily enough, if the Toreador come and knock in for some intel and some secrets, they charge them extra. But yeah, the Nosferatu are genuinely really interesting. I think there's a lot of fun stuff to dig into, and just in reading about them, their characters are really fun. Like, really cool, really scary, or just fun guys. They hit a great vibe. And quite honestly, from just the bit I've looked into, my favorite vampire character is Cuthbert Beckett. I love him. Baba Yaga might hurt his spot a little. I'll be honest. I need to dig into it. I'm going to make a video on her. She seems really cool. But yeah, that's it. Subscribe, like the video, share it, comment. Huge shout out to my channel members who, without them, wouldn't be possible. I'm super appreciative, and an even bigger shout out to my top tier channel members, that being Ultra Mega Jesus, Robbie Beckmeyer, and Czar Shadow. I'm super appreciative. Thank you guys. But yeah, see ya.